Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're taking on Herman Melville's Moby-Dick today.
That's right.
I think most people have heard of it, this massive book, all about a whale. But
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more to it than just a simple story about a whale.
absolutely.
And that's what we're here to do today, to kind of unpack some of that.
Yeah, it really is it's a complex masterpiece
Yeah.
and often gets reduced to, a simple adventure story, but
Right, and it's endured, for students of literature.
oh, absolutely.
It's still a really important book. So that's what we're going to do today, is explore Moby-Dick and why it's so important.
For those studying literature, Moby-Dick offers a really unique opportunity to understand how a master storyteller, like Melville, weaves together plot, characters, themes, and style to create this unforgettable reading experience.
All right, so let's start with the basics. We have a sailor named Ishmael who is narrating the voyage of the Pequod, a whaling ship,
Yes.
commanded by the rather enigmatic Captain Ahab. But this isn't your typical, sea yarn.
Right. Right from the start, Melville kind of signals that he's doing something different because Ishmael's voice isn't just like a window into the story. It's a force shaping the narrative, really.
Yeah.
Drawing the reader into his world through these vivid descriptions, philosophical musings, and even direct addresses.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, where he kind of breaks that fourth wall.
Oh, wow. So he's not just telling the story, he's actually engaging with the reader, making them a participant.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what about the plot itself? We know that Ahab is after this white whale, Moby-Dick. But what's the driving force behind this, obsession?
Well, on the surface, it seems like it's just revenge, Ahab wants to, he's lost his leg to this whale.
Right.
But it goes beyond a simple desire for retribution. It becomes almost like a symbolic struggle against the vast, unknowable forces of the universe.
Ooh.
A reflection of humanity's often destructive pursuit of knowledge and meaning.
Wow. So even in the midst of this, thrilling sea adventure, Melville is also grappling with these deeper existential questions about good and evil.
Yeah.
The limits of human knowledge.
Exactly.
The power of fate.
And he does this through a cast of characters that represent a microcosm of humanity.
Okay.
We have Starbuck, the first mate, who kind of embodies reason and caution. He's constantly trying to temper Ahab's reckless pursuit.
Right.
And then you have Queequeg, the tattooed harpooner from Polynesia,
Yeah.
and he embodies a different kind of wisdom,
Okay.
one that's rooted in ancient traditions and a deep connection to nature.
Yeah, that's what I think is so compelling about Moby-Dick.
Yeah.
That it's not just about Ahab and the whale. It's about the relationships between these characters, their different backgrounds, beliefs, motivations.
Yes.
It's like a study of human nature set against this epic sea voyage.
Precisely. And Melville doesn't shy away from exploring those complexities, like the friendship between Ishmael and Queequeg. It transcends
Right.
racial and cultural boundaries at a time when such relationships were deeply taboo.
Right.
This adds another layer of meaning to the story, right? Because it forces us to confront the prejudices and social hierarchies of Melville's era.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's amazing how he's weaving these social and philosophical threads into what could have been just a very straightforward adventure story.
Yeah.
But then there's also the structure of the book. It's not a linear chronological narrative, is it?
No, not at all. Moby-Dick is a masterclass in nonlinear storytelling.
Okay.
He uses flashbacks, digressions, and even chapters that seem to completely deviate from the main plot
Okay.
to explore everything from the history of whaling to the anatomy of whales.
Wait, hold on. Entire chapters on whale anatomy.
Yes,
That sounds intense.
it is.
I'm dying to know, how do those seemingly unrelated sections actually contribute to the book's meaning?
Well, that's where Melville's genius really shines through, because these digressions, they're often referred to as cetological chapters. They're not just these random bursts of information. They serve a purpose, a very specific purpose.
Okay.
They draw the reader into the world of whaling, immersing them in the science, the mythology, the sheer awe-inspiring magnitude of these creatures.
Right.
By doing so, he elevates the whale from a mere animal to a symbol of something much larger,
Sure.
something that represents the vastness and the mystery of the natural world.
Okay, so those chapters about whale anatomy aren't just there to educate the reader.
No.
They're actually building this sense of wonder and awe,
Exactly.
setting the stage for this ultimate confrontation between Ahab and Moby-Dick.
Yes, they create this sense of scale and grandeur, preparing us for this epic struggle that unfolds between humanity and nature.
It sounds like Melville is really playing with the structure of the novel itself to really enhance the thematic depth
Yes.
of Moby-Dick.
Yeah.
And then there's another structural element that I think is really interesting. It adds this layer of foreshadowing and suspense to the story, and those are the gams.
Ah, yes, the gams. These encounters between the Pequod and other whaling ships serve as more than just opportunities for Melville to kind of showcase the camaraderie
Right.
and competition of the whaling community. They become pivotal moments of foreshadowing.
Okay, so for those who aren't familiar, a gam is basically a social gathering between whaling ships at sea.
Precisely. Yeah, it's kind of like a nautical meet and greet.
Okay, got it.
But in Moby-Dick, each gam becomes increasingly ominous
Okay.
because the Pequod encounters ships that have met Moby-Dick before.
Oh.
And each one bears the scars of their encounter, offering a glimpse into the white whale's power
No.
and the potential consequences of Ahab's obsession.
So with each gam, the tension just keeps ratcheting up,
It does.
and we get a clearer sense of the danger that lies ahead.
Yeah.
It's like he's really carefully constructing this sense of impending doom.
He is. And this careful construction of plot, character, and structure is further enhanced by Melville's remarkable prose.
Right.
His writing is unlike anything else out there.
Yeah, that's what I was really curious to get into. Like, what makes Melville's style so unique?
Well, his language is this rich tapestry woven from diverse threads.
Okay.
He draws on biblical allusions, Shakespearean influences, nautical jargon. He even invents his own words
Really?
to capture the epic scope of his story. He effortlessly shifts between registers from the, elevated and poetic to the gritty and colloquial, sometimes within the same paragraph.
So he's really not afraid to experiment with language.
Yeah, no.
Push the boundaries of what's considered proper literary style.
And that's what makes it so fresh and invigorating even today.
Right.
He creates these stunning images, these metaphors that stay with you long after you've finished reading.
It sounds like he was a master of using language to create this really immersive experience for the reader.
Yeah.
But how does he use that language to enhance, like, the thematic depth of the novel?
Well, his style is intrinsically linked to the ideas that he's exploring.
Okay.
So, for example, his use of biblical language elevates the story to the level of myth,
Right.
hinting at the grand, almost theological themes that he's tackling.
Okay.
His Shakespearean influences
Mm-hmm.
imbue the characters with psychological depth and complexity, making them feel like fully realized individuals rather than just archetypes.
Right.
And his willingness to break from convention, to blend, high and low diction,
Yeah.
reflects the very nature of the whaling world itself.
Yeah.
This world where, the refined and the brutal constantly collide.
It sounds like his style isn't just about beautiful language.
No,
It's a tool for conveying meaning,
it is.
for deepening our understanding of the characters and the themes.
Absolutely. And speaking of insights, there's one particular aspect of his style that deserves attention, and that's his use of dramatic irony.
Okay.
So Ishmael, as the narrator, often foreshadows events or hints at Ahab's tragic fate, even as the characters themselves remain oblivious.
So Melville is using the narrator's voice to create this sense of impending doom.
Oh, he is.
Even as the characters within the story are marching, blindly towards their destiny.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. It adds another layer of complexity and tension.
It does, and it allows him to explore the themes of fate, free will, and the limits of human knowledge in a really nuanced way.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already. From plot and character to structure and style, it's clear that Moby-Dick is a book that really demands close attention, careful analysis, and a willingness to embrace its complexity.
Absolutely. And for students of literature, it's a treasure trove of literary techniques and thematic depth. It's a masterpiece that will continue to reward their efforts.
Yeah. I think this is a great place to maybe pause our exploration
Yes.
of...
We'll pick back up in part 2 by diving deeper into the historical context
Okay.
and real-life inspirations behind Moby-Dick.
So stay tuned.
Yes.
Welcome back.
So, Before we kind of digressed into Melville's writing style, we were talking about how he uses, language and structure to create this really unique and multi-layered reading experience.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious about the historical backdrop of Moby Dick. Like, what was going on in the world at that time?
Well, Melville was writing during a period of immense change and upheaval in America.
Right.
The mid-19th century, it was a time of westward expansion,
Right.
industrialization, growing social unrest. It was also a time when America was kind of coming to terms with its own identity on the global stage.
So there was a sense of national ambition,
Yeah.
but also a lot of uncertainty and anxiety about the future.
Exactly, exactly. And that tension between ambition and anxiety, you can really see it reflected in Moby Dick.
Ahab's relentless pursuit of the white whale, it can be seen as a metaphor for America's own pursuit of progress, even at the cost of human life
Right.
and the natural world.
Yeah. That's an interesting parallel.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if Melville was maybe trying to critique the unbridled ambition of his time or expose the darker side of the American dream.
It's certainly open to interpretation.
Right.
And that's what makes Moby Dick so rich, such a rewarding text for literary analysis. But beyond the broader historical context, there were some specific events that directly inspired Melville's writing.
Oh, really? Like, I always love those little behind-the-scenes glimpses.
Well, for one, Melville himself, he spent several years working on whaling ships before he became a writer.
Oh, wow.
So those experiences gave him firsthand knowledge of the harsh realities of life at sea,
Yeah.
the dangers of whaling, and all the diverse characters that populated that world.
So he wasn't just writing from imagination. He was drawing on his own lived experiences.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And there are two specific historical events that are believed to have had a profound impact on the shaping of Moby Dick. The first is the sinking of the Essex.
Okay.
It was a whaling ship from Nantucket that was rammed and sunk by a sperm whale in 1820.
Wow. That's a terrifying story.
It is. The story of the Essex was well known among whalers at the time, and Melville probably heard accounts of the sinking firsthand.
Right.
And it's easy to see how that event, with its themes of survival against impossible odds, the terrifying power of nature,
Right.
it would definitely feed into the narrative of Moby Dick.
So the Essex provided this real-life example of a whale's power
All right.
and the fragility of human ambition in the face of nature.
Exactly.
But you mentioned there was another event.
Yes. There was actually a real-life white whale
Okay.
that captured the imaginations of whalers in the early 19th century.
Okay.
His name was Moby-Dick.
Moby-Dick.
And he was this albino sperm whale
Wow.
known for his size, his ferocity, and his ability to evade capture.
I knew there had to be a real-life Moby-Dick somewhere.
War was legendary. There were countless stories
Wow.
circulating about Moby-Dick. Tales of his intelligence, his cunning, the numerous scars that he bore from encounters with whalers.
It sounds like he was more than just a whale. He was almost like this symbol of the untamed wildness of the ocean, a creature that defied human control,
Yeah.
embodied the unpredictable forces of nature.
Exactly. And it's easy to see how Melville would be drawn to such a figure.
Right.
A creature that represented, both the awe-inspiring beauty and
Right.
the terrifying power of the natural world.
So Melville takes these real-life experiences, these historical events, this legendary whale, weaves them all together
Yeah.
into this grand tapestry that explores not just the world of whaling, but also the deeper questions about humanity's place in the universe.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the influence of other writers
Right.
and thinkers on Melville's creative process. He was a voracious reader, deeply immersed in the works of Shakespeare, Hawthorne, Carlyle, just to name a few.
Yeah.
He drew inspiration from their styles, their thematic concerns,
Yeah.
philosophical insights.
So it wasn't just personal experience and historical events
Right.
that shaped Moby-Dick.
Mm.
It was also this engagement with the literary and intellectual currents of his time.
Exactly. And one of the things that makes Moby Dick so fascinating for students of literature is how he blends genres.
Okay.
He draws elements of the epic,
Yeah.
the tragic drama, the adventure story, even the scientific treatise,
Wow.
to create this multifaceted work that just defies categorization.
Yeah. It's like he's pushing the boundaries of what a novel can be,
He is.
experimenting with form and structure to create something that's both intellectually stimulating and deeply moving.
Yes. And speaking of pushing boundaries,
Yes.
Melville was not afraid to tackle controversial topics
Okay.
in his work.
Yeah.
Moby-Dick, with its diverse cast of characters and its exploration of race, class, and religion, challenged the social norms of his time. And it still continues to spark debate,
Right.
discussion today.
So Moby-Dick isn't just a historical artifact.
No,
It's a living text
it is.
that continues to resonate with readers even in the 21st century.
Absolutely. And for those studying literature, it's a masterclass in how a writer can use language, structure, character, theme to create a work of art that transcends time and speaks to the universal human experience.
Yeah. I'm realizing there's so much more to Moby-Dick than I ever imagined. It's not just a book. It's like this portal into the mind of a really brilliant and complex writer
Yeah.
who was grappling with some of the biggest questions of his time.
And those questions remain relevant today, which is why Moby-Dick is such a timeless masterpiece.
Right, right. This feels like a good place to maybe pause
Mm-hmm.
and reflect on everything we've uncovered so far.
Yeah. In the final part, we'll explore the legacy of Moby-Dick and its enduring impact on literature, art, and popular culture.
So stay with us. Welcome back. We've really journeyed through the depths of Moby-Dick, haven't we?
We have.
Exploring its intricate plot, the characters, the groundbreaking style.
Yeah.
We also uncovered the historical context and real-life inspirations.
Mm,
That shaped Melville's work.
yeah,
But as much as Moby-Dick reflects its time, it also transcends it,
it does.
you know?
Yeah.
It continues to resonate with readers centuries later.
It does, yeah. That's the true mark of a literary classic, I think.
Right.
Its ability to speak to readers across generations,
Right.
to spark new insights, new conversations.
So as we conclude our deep dive, let's consider the legacy of Moby-Dick
Yeah.
and its impact.
Okay.
Okay, so we know that Moby-Dick wasn't an immediate success, right? It took decades for critics and readers to really appreciate its brilliance.
Yeah.
What sparked that shift in perception? How did a book that was once considered too dense, too difficult, become hailed as one of the greatest American novels ever written?
Well, it was a gradual process fueled by a number of factors.
Yeah.
I think the rise of modern literary criticism in the early 20th century played a big role.
Okay.
Scholars began to analyze Moby-Dick through new lenses, exploring its symbolism, psychological depth,
Right.
philosophical underpinning.
So they were kind of digging beneath the surface of the adventure story,
Yeah,
uncovering these layers of meaning that might have been missed.
exactly. Yeah. Critics started to recognize Moby-Dick as this profound meditation on human ambition, the limits of knowledge, the power of nature, the search for meaning in a chaotic universe.
Right, and these are all themes that would resonate, especially, I mean, all the time, but
Yeah,
especially in the 20th century.
absolutely.
You know, a time marked by world wars,
Right.
technological advancements, existential anxieties.
A lot of uncertainty.
Exactly.
So it kind of, Moby-Dick spoke to the anxieties of a rapidly changing world,
Right.
offering, both a reflection of those anxieties
Right.
and maybe even a way to grapple with them.
Right.
And as scholarly interest in Moby-Dick grew, so did its popularity with the general public.
Right.
New editions were published, adaptations were made, and the book gradually found its place in the canon of American literature.
It's a reminder that literary reputations
Yeah,
can evolve over time.
they do. They
Right.
do.
Right.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes studying literature so fascinating,
Right.
You're constantly engaging with texts from the past, reinterpreting them through the lens of our own experiences and perspectives.
And Moby Dick, with its enduring themes, multi-layered narrative, offers a really rich and rewarding text for that kind of reinterpretation. But its legacy extends beyond, academic study.
It does, yeah.
Moby Dick has had a profound impact on popular culture,
It has.
inspiring countless adaptations, creative responses.
From films and plays to operas, graphic novels, Moby Dick has been reimagined in countless forms, reaching new audiences, sparking new conversations.
Yeah, and those adaptations, even if they deviate from the source material, they keep the story alive, introduce it to new generations of readers and viewers. I wonder what Melville would make of all these adaptations.
It's hard to say. He might be amused to see his epic novel transformed into a Hollywood blockbuster or a Broadway musical.
Right.
But he also might be frustrated by the ways in which those adaptations simplify, distort his complex vision.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, those adaptations wouldn't exist if Moby-Dick hadn't captured the imagination of artists and storytellers
Right.
across different mediums.
Yeah, it speaks to the universality of the themes, the power of the story itself.
Yeah,
But Moby Dick's influence extends beyond adaptations.
it does.
It's inspired countless writers, poets, artists who have kind of found echoes of Melville's themes and stylistic innovations in their own work.
Absolutely.
Right.
From authors like William Faulkner, Toni Morrison, to filmmakers like Orson Welles, David Lynch. Melville's legacy is, it's really visible
Right.
in the works of some of the most celebrated artists.
So Moby Dick is not just a great American novel. It's a touchstone, a point of reference
Yeah.
that continues to shape the way we think about storytelling, about our relationship to nature, and about the human condition.
Absolutely.
As we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking detail.
Okay.
The book never actually explicitly states what color Moby Dick is.
That's right.
You'd think such an iconic creature
Yeah.
would have a clearly defined appearance. What do you think Melville was trying to achieve with that ambiguity?
Well, it's open to interpretation, of course. But I think that lack of specificity allows Moby Dick to become, almost like a blank canvas onto which readers can project their own fears, their own desires, their own interpretations.
Right.
So he becomes more than just a whale. He becomes a symbol, a force of nature, a representation of the unknown.
That's such great insight. It reminds us that the power of Moby Dick lies not just in the story itself, but also in the spaces it leaves for the reader to fill in, the questions that it raises, the interpretations that it invites.
Exactly, and that's what makes Moby Dick such an enduring, rewarding work of literature. It's a book that continues to challenge us, provoke us, remind us of the power of great storytelling.
Well, I think we've successfully navigated the depths of Moby Dick.
We have.
From its narrative structure to its profound themes and its lasting impact. A huge thank you to you for sharing your expertise and insights with us today.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to seek out Moby Dick, to embrace its complexities, and to discover its magic for yourselves.
Happy reading.